Hey guys! So today I'm going to film a video about my latest finish, which was the Save the Stitches Blackwork sampler. This sampler is completely free. You can get it at blackworkjourney.co.uk. I'll link that down below. It is designed by Almond, and she has a bunch of awesome little Blackwork freebies on her website, including another bigger project called Box of Delights. So I'll quickly show you the whole thing, and then we will get into some close-ups after I talk about the materials I used. So this is Save the Stitches. It is a variety of different little motifs and fill patterns, which you'll see when we get a little bit closer up. I started it on June 7th of last year, and I finished it just after Mother's Day on this year. I stitched it on Aida. This is 18 count oatmeal Aida, and I can't, it's a piece of fabric that I just got right out of a container from Michael's, like one of those ones that comes in the tube, and I can't remember if it was Charles Craft or the Loops and Threads brand. I can't seem to find it online now, but it's roughly 14 inches by 26 inches. That's like the closest measurement I could get, but the entire sampler fit on that piece. So I chose 18 count Aida instead of 14 count, which was recommended by Liz on the website. I just did that because I didn't want it to be so humongous, but it created a couple of problems, which I'll talk about in a second. So to do the stitching, I used DMC Pearl Cotton number 12 in black. I stitched my entire sampler with this. Which again caused a couple of problems, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But so I used 2 full balls of this pearl cotton and like nothing of this third ball. This is the third ball, the one I needed to finish. So if you're a little bit more conservative with your thread, you can probably get away with just 2 of these balls if you decide to do what I did, but I needed to like break open the third one. I also used the DMC Metallics. These are not the light effects, I don't think. I'm not sure. I don't know much about how DMC labels their metallics because I will never use them again. So this is the gold I chose. It's E3821. Looks like that. The copper I chose is E301. And the silver I chose is E168. These aren't the ones that Liz suggests in her pattern. These are just ones I got at my Michael's. I was so excited to start this last year. I heard about it originally from Dana at Stitching Book Nerd. I think her channel is just Book Nerd though. She hasn't made videos in a while, or maybe I just haven't checked. Maybe there's one up there now, but I miss you, Dana, and you're the one that convinced me to stitch this. And now that I'm saying your name, I can't remember if it's Dana or Dana, so I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. But I first heard about this pattern from her, and it was free, and it was something that I had never done before, the Blackwork, and I just wanted to start it right away, so I just went to Michael's and got whatever I could get from there. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend these. These are stranded metallics. So each length has like 6 different lengths, like regular DMC floss, but the problem I had was it like bunched up as I was stitching with it, and I ended up getting a bunch of weird like loops and tugs, and I don't know, it wasn't the best experience. Not entirely happy with some of it on the actual sampler. Maybe you'll see that in the close-up, but I hope you don't. But anyways, so that is the metallic I used. I would probably use like, you know, if I was gonna take the time to order the materials, which I would have to because that is all my Michael's carries, I would probably use Petite Treasure Braid. I really like that metallic. I've been using it for my chatelaine, but it is, as I mentioned in the last video that I mentioned my chatelaine in, it's like flatter on one side, it's more like a ribbon, so it might actually be more difficult in hindsight to get everything to lay nicely. But Krennic, I would also use Krennic. It is kind of more the typical metallic shape, like a tube. I think that would work really nicely, and I don't have problems with the metallic bunching up on me the same way that these did. So 18 count Aida and oatmeal. This was my metallic floss. And then for beads, I just picked a bead from Toho, which is the Michaels, one of the brands they carry at Michaels. This was before my humongous bead collection, guys. I didn't know what to do. So this is a size 11 glass seed bead. And this color has a number, 1951-130 is the color. So it is just a very neutral, warm bead that I thought would look nice with all three of the metallic colors. So those were the supplies I used. I've talked about this before, but if you're only watching this video and not like my other whip updates, I'll just mention it again. So I stitched the whole thing with pearl cotton, number 12. In the pattern, she recommends that you just stitch the borders with this, and you stitch the inside, the actual filling patterns, with regular DMC cotton floss, just one strand of it. And I should have done that, but I didn't. I used this thickness for all of it. So what that did was, because my thread was thicker with the added bonus of using a smaller count of fabric, some of the more detailed patterns that I was stitching ended up kind of all running together. I didn't get the great like definition that you would get if you had used the DMC regular cotton floss one strand and the 14 count Aida, and I'm seeing that now when I see like other people's Instagram photos of this project. It looks so beautiful, and I wish I had done that. Use the finer count thread, and you'll see that in the close-ups. I'll mention a couple of them. So some of the like smaller X's, like crosses in the pattern, on mine they just look like black squares because everything's too close together and you can't see the definition of each thread. So that's something to keep in mind if you would like to stitch this project. I'm not sure in hindsight why I just used this. I think I probably read the instructional instructional PDF wrong and thought that I was just supposed to use this. But anyways, so I think that's all I have to say about the actual pattern. But maybe I'll mention that Liz released this pattern in sections. So the introductory PDF on her website, which you'll find under freebies, and then you just have to go back a few pages. It tells you like the stitched size. I actually have that here. It's 180 by 380 stitches, and it shows you this nifty diagram of how the whole thing fits together. So these are all your outline pieces, and then they're all filled in with different Blackwork patterns. So what I did when I stitched it was she would release her patterns in blocks, so block 1, block 2, block 3 across the top. I would stitch that whole row of like shapes first, and then I would go back and fill them in, just because I was paranoid that I was gonna stitch something wrong and I would get all this work done and then like something wouldn't line up. So that was my own paranoia, but worked out well. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Oh, looking at this now, it turns out that I did pick 2 of the metallics that she has in the pattern here. The gold is the color she suggests, and the copper is too. I just picked a different silver. I think the one in the pattern is more gray, like more pewtery, and this was just very like white based, so I picked that instead. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to say about it. If you're interested in stitching this pattern, you definitely should. Even if you just stitch a little section of it, it's so interesting. I've never stitched Blackwork before, but I found it to be a really welcome departure from cross-stitching. So if you're interested in it, I will link everything down below. As I said, it's totally free, and if you want to stay tuned, we will get into some close-ups. Hey guys, so this is the close-up section of this video. Two things I should have mentioned in the other section. I did make some changes to these patterns, and I've gone through the PDFs again, and I think I've caught all of them, so I will do my best to point those out. What I stitched in mine that may be different from what the actual pattern was. And also, I'm sorry about my gross finger. I skinned it at work, so that's going to be a great close-up for you. Okay, so let's get started. So as I mentioned, this is the top row here. So this is block 1, block 2, and block 3. So that is block 1, block 2, and block 3. I had a lot of problems with not fractional stitches. What am I talking about? Splitting the Aida. If I had used an even weave, it would have been much easier, but I didn't. This one, though, surprisingly, this section, these are all split stitches, and it came out really well. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was just my dedication having just started this project, but sections like this were the ones I chose to change further down the line because they just ended up not coming out quite as nicely. So those were the first 3 blocks. Or sections. The fourth section is this line of motifs. So the first 2, first big one, the middle one, second big one, and the last 2. So carrying on, this is block 5, block 6, and block 7. So that is block 5. This is still one of my favorite ones, actually. I just think it looks like a really cool kind of vintage wallpaper. I'm a little bit biased. A lot of my favorites have that copper in them. So that's block 5, block 6, and block 7. And block 7, I believe I changed something on. Let me just have a look at my notes here. I did. This top right-hand pattern, I just simplified it a little bit. So something you'll notice throughout these patterns is they'll typically be like a simplified side and then a side that's more complicated looking. And as is the case with this one, it got a little bit more complicated as we got to the bottom here. There was an extra element added that I just decided to take out. I don't remember what that element was. All I have here is that I simplified the bottom of it. But so this might look a little bit different from the actual pattern if you decide to stitch it. So section 8 is this string of motifs. So there's the first 2. First big one in the middle, second big one, and the last 2. So that was section 8. This is block 9, block 10, and block 11. So there is block 9, 10, and 11, and this was the first one I kind of ran into a big problem with. So block 11, this section here, I changed a lot. I added these beads on the one side, and that was because, actually, well, everything is different. So this looks nothing like the actual pattern that you would get for block 11, this section. It just had a bunch of like splitting stitches and I couldn't make them look defined, so I decided to do this instead. It's maybe not quite as like professionally designed as the other ones because I designed it and kind of freestyled it, but I'm happy with how it came out. I was pretty frustrated that I couldn't make mine look like the pattern, but again, that was just the fabric and the thread that I chose. So I did change this one. So section 12 is this line of motifs here. So there's the first two. First big one, middle one, second big one, and the two on the end. So next, this is block 13, 14, and 15. So there's block 13, 14, and 15. I also really like the ones like this one that kind of add in the metallic element but kind of let it take over the design. So these are little like gold flowers. I think they are very pretty. And so section 16 is this line of motifs. So the first two, first big one, middle one, second big one, and the two on the end. Oop, running out of space here. Just let me roll up the top. All right, so I believe we are back with 16. Is that right? Let me just check. Yes, so this is block 16, 17, and 18. There is block 16, 17, and 18. And then section 19 is this line of motifs. So the first two, first big one, middle one, second big one, and the two on the end. And so we are nearing the end here. This is block 21, 22, and 23. So here is block 21, and I did change the bottom right section here. I just simplified. Originally there were kind of more sections with more different variations. I just simplified that. And also I took out the metallic. So there's a copper metallic here, and there was also a gold metallic over here. I just took out the gold, so I just left the one copper part in. So that's block 21. Block 22, I also changed something in. Ooh, quite a few things. So the bottom left, I just made a tiny change. You can see there's some gold metallic here and then some beads. There was also some gold metallic like in amongst the beads up here, but I took that out. So I just simplified it so that it was beads and metallic. And then the top right section I also changed a little bit. If you look closely, you can see that there are little boxes here with X's in the middle of them. Originally, those were little boxes with tinier boxes inside them, so squares. And that required me having to split the eta, and I just didn't think it looked nice. So instead, I just made these little X's here and here. And then this is block 23. I didn't change anything in that one. And so then we are down to the final section. And it's just kind of bunches of these little motifs. So here's the first section. The Save the Stitches, which I stitched according to the pattern. I didn't change that. There's the middle section. I did change the year. In the pattern it's 2014, and I don't think it gave you an option to do the 2015. So I just decided to pick another alphabet, like a backstitch font. I just picked one that was 6 stitches high, and that's the one I picked. It does look a little, it is in the center. It doesn't look like it's in the center, but it is. So I changed the date there. And then this is the section where you put your initials in. I've never done this before. I've never done anything that required like you to put your initials in like according to an alphabet. So I wish I had made them bigger in hindsight. I just followed the pattern. I put them like on the same line as the example initials started. But yeah, I wish they were a little bigger. And then this is the bottom right section. So that is my Save the Stitches. I think this is a wonderful pattern, and if you look at it kind of in its entirety, you'll see that a lot of these motifs complement each other, and it's just so well thought out. Like even the metallics are never the same in the line here. Like this one's gold, this one's silver, this one's copper. It's just so well thought out. There's nothing really that I can say negatively about it. I had a really good time stitching it. I also really enjoyed finding blocks like this one, and there was another one, but I'm not sure I'll be able to find it now, where they use every hole in the fabric, but they use it in a really interesting way. So that was very cool. And yeah, that is my Save the Stitches. I hope you guys enjoyed this little close-up. As I mentioned, I will leave all the links down below if you want to stitch it for yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!